Hi everyone. So today we are making some spaghetti together with some chicken breast, chicken viandas and some vegetables. For a start, we are going to prepare our spaghetti. So we start by boiling some water and putting some oil inside the water. So we'll be using fetus and monies as our spaghetti. I like preparing my spaghetti like that. I don't like cutting my spaghetti at all. I know, as the Italians would normally say, that it's a crime to break your spaghetti. So I normally prefer to put it like that so that it dissolves nicely. Thereafter, we're going to prepare some vegetables. So in this regard, we're going to use some onions and peppers. So I used three different types of peppers: red, yellow and green. I cut them into stripes and also added some onion rings. Ideally, it would have been better to also have some red onions to include there, so that the color, there could be different colors. Thereafter, I continued frying my vegetables together in a low heat setup. So for this mixture, we're going to add chicken breast and also some chicken rations. The reason why I'm using these different three types of meat is that when I was preparing for this meal, I picked up that I didn't have enough chicken breast and I also didn't have enough chicken rations. So normally I would use either one of the two. So because I only had a little bit of both, I decided to mix together. Cooking is about working with what you have in your kitchen. You just need to be creative. So I then prepared my chicken breast and added some spices. If you're in South Africa, you would be familiar with the spice that I'm using. It's Sisgan. It's one of my favorite spices to use in the kitchen, almost for different meals. So I then mixed my spice with the chicken breast so that it can dwell in nicely, and concurrently I made sure that I kept frying my vegetables and also added a bit of spice for seasoning as well in my vegetables, and continue to fry in low heat using the normal oil that is found in the shops, which is sunflower oil. And I also prefer adding aromate for seasoning for the meal to have that nice taste. At the same time, I'm boiling my spaghetti. As you can see, it's slowly surely going down, and once it has gone down, I'll then have to remove it and rinse it to remove that little bit of starch that is left on my spaghetti. It is very important to continue stirring so that the spaghetti doesn't become compact or doesn't stick to each other. Otherwise, it defeats the whole purpose of eating the spaghetti, because it needs to be loose. It doesn't have to be sticking to each other. So I just had to make sure that I use a wooden spoon to make sure that all my spaghetti is submerged in water, and at the same time making sure that I don't break it. For this meal, we prepared some sweet potatoes as a side dish. You can decide any other type of vegetables that you need to use, that you prefer or that you have in your pantry. Once my vegetables were ready, I then went ahead and added my chicken breast and continued to fry so that the chicken breast can cook nicely from the juice coming from the vegetables for it to have that nice vegetable taste in it. Back to my spaghetti, as mentioned earlier on, that is very important to make sure that it doesn't stick to each other. So I continued using a fork to separate the spaghetti. So one needs to do this continuously to make sure that it doesn't stick to each other, and at the same time I made sure that I kept frying and turning my vegetables so that they can cook both sides nicely. I continue to add arrowroot for seasoning, and continued mixing my mixture together. So when my mixture is ready, the next stage was to add the rations. So the reason why I prefer adding seasoning before that is because you know that normally the rations, they are salty, they come salty, so it won't be ideal to add more salt on them. So I made sure that I add all the seasoning before I add them, and I also use the same seasoning for the spaghetti. So this was after I have washed it and removed all the starch and continued to mix it together so that it can uh, nicely be mixed with my spaghetti. And at the same time, I need to make sure that the spaghetti doesn't get overcooked. Back to my vegetables. So at this stage, my vegetables are almost ready. The next stage to do is to put in the chicken rations so that I fry them a little bit before mixing them um, to my spaghetti that is cooking on the side. So for this meal to have a bit of that sour taste, I then added the oyster sauce, is the soya sauce, so that it can have that nice sour taste in it, depending on what your taste buds prefers. And it also enhances the color of your vegetables. So I continued frying to make sure that everything cooks well and blends in together with each other. So at this stage here, my vegetables are almost ready, and my pasta is also ready on the side. So I've already switched off the heat on both of them. So it's very important to make sure that one does not overcook this, because this meal normal tastes much better if your vegetables are crunchy. As mentioned earlier on, we also prepared some sweet potato as a side dish. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to mash these potatoes. We normally prefer eating them mashed. However, the other reason why we also prepare this is because we do have a 1-year-old who loves them the most, and easier for him to consume them when they are mashed like this. So this is one of the sweetest sweet potatoes from Venda. You cannot find it in the local shops like Checkers. It's very hard and stiff, so at some point I had to make sure that I add a little bit of water to make this mashing process to be a little bit easier. And for this meal, or for this side not to be too hard, I also had to make sure that I add some water. So after the mesh was ready, the next stage was for me to put it aside so that I can then continue with the next stage of cooking. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you really want to get more of the raw, unfiltered cooking videos from a South African household. So here we're just using the basic food that we have in our pantry and cupboards. Nothing fancy, just sharing with you guys what we normally go through when we're preparing a meal in our daily basis. The next stage of this cooking process is to create the white sauce. So the white sauce, I think, is the most interesting turning point for this meal. Is the one that enhances the taste for this meal. So we're going to prepare the white sauce, and for that we're going to use some butter, some flour, and some milk, some full cream milk, and a bit of cheese. So I'll be showing you how to do that. We're also going to include arrowroot again as part of the seasoning. Believe me, I know my mixture when it comes to seasoning and salt. This meal was not salty at all because of the number of times you might have seen me adding this seasoning. I prefer adding bit by bit until I get the right consistency or the right amount of taste that I'm looking for. So in terms of preparing the sauce, we're going to start by melting our butter. Thereafter we're going to add some flour. So the measurement for flour, I normally don't have specific measurements. It just depends on the amount of thickness of your sauce that you need. So we're going to start by putting 2 spoons. In this case, I would say yes, I did put 2 spoons of flour, and then mixed with my melted butter. The reason why we start by this is for the flour not to stick to each other and create lumps in the process. So immediately I made sure that I add my milk so that I can then make the sauce. The most important part of this process of this sauce making is to make sure that you continuously stir so that it doesn't stick to each other. So in this case, I had to use a whisk. I don't know what they call it, a whisker or whisk, to make sure that I break off the lumps between the flour that I created earlier on that was mixed with the butter. So I had to, one needs to make sure that you mix that immediately before it cooks, and keep on adding a bit of milk until you reach the desired level of the thickness that you're looking for. So for this meal, I would say I used roughly 1 tablespoon of butter, and also 2 tablespoons of flour. And in terms of milk, I'm going to use 1 liter of full cream milk. So I continued to whisk until all the lumps were dissolved. Once all the lumps have dissolved, the next stage was to make sure that I add more milk. Once I was comfortable that the mixture was in a level that I want, I had to make sure that I add the rest of the milk so that it can cook nicely together until it becomes thick. So as you can see in this video, it's very important to make sure that you continue to whisk so that the flour mix properly with the milk that one is adding. So in this case, because I prepared 1 full packet of spaghetti, I also prefer to use 1 liter of full cream milk. So the rest of this part of the video, it's just me whisking and mixing the milk together with the flour. So this is after a couple of minutes. As you can see, it was starting to make bubbles and becoming a little bit thicker. Once it's thicker, the next stage of the process was to add some grated cheese. So this is to enhance the taste. I prefer using cheddar cheese because of its sour taste and thickness, because once it melts in your sauce, it will create that nice thickness and also leave that nice sour taste. So once your sauce starts boiling up like that and creating bubbles, it's a sign that it's ready. Kept testing to taste whether I was comfortable with the level of seasoning in the sauce. If not, one then needs to then add more of arrowroot. The next stage of this process is to pour in our white sauce to our spaghetti and vegetable mixture. I think I could have forgotten to show you the video when I was mixing my vegetables to the pasta. However, it's simple. It was just mixing the vegetables with the pasta together and put them aside, and thereafter I then poured some white sauce to my spaghetti and mix together. So it's very important to make sure that your spaghetti is not overcooked. Otherwise, if it's overcooked and by the time you are doing the mixing here, it might start breaking, and yeah, it might not look good thereafter. Your meal might not look good thereafter. So this is one of my favorite meal that I love making. And one can be creative in terms of how you prefer making them. You can also make it without mixing the meat and the vegetables together. You can just prepare that on the side and make your white sauce and spaghetti, and then prepare your meat on the side, depending on how you want to do it. As mentioned earlier on, cooking. It's about being creative and freestyling, working with what you have in your kitchen and creating your own recipe. As long as it tastes nice, it's not harmful to anyone, and everyone enjoys it, it's a healthy meal. I don't see anything wrong with that. So thereafter, that was the final product. We had it with some glass of wine. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my video. Thank you. Bye.